Namaskar. I welcome you all to today's special meeting, this White Lotus Day celebration. Before we start the celebration, we should invoke the universal prayer. So I request all of you to invoke the universal prayer along with me, and then 1 minute silence will be followed. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other. Come back. So today is White Lotus Day Celebration. It's a celebration of all Theosophists in the world. We all celebrate it on every 8th of May, the death anniversary of Madame Blavatsky. She is the founder of the Theosophical Society. It is a celebration that encourages all of us on the meditation about the metaphor of the lotus. As you all would be knowing, a lotus is born under the mud, growing through the water to achieve the surface and therefore the air and light of the sun. This growth is identified with man's life, born in earth but desiring the elevation to the air, representing his middle stage between animals and the ultimate reality, the supremacy. And many of you would be knowing, every seed of the lotus contains perfectly formed leaves and a miniature shape of what the seed would become. So that is the importance of the lotus flower. In her will, Madam HPB suggested that her friends might gather together on the anniversary of her death, that is 8th of May 1891, the day she died. And she suggested that friends should read from Sir Edwin Arnold's Light of Asia, the Bhagavad Gita, and also we add 2 more texts to it while we celebrate. We add the Voice of Silence as explained by Madame Blavatsky herself, and we also add a summary of HPB's life. Today we will be following the same things. We will read portions from Bhagavad Gita, then the Light of Asia, some portions of the Voice of Silence, then one of our members would read a summary of HPB's life. And then we have kept, towards the end, we'll have some devotional program, 1 or 2 songs and a music. So before we start, I request all the speakers to get ready with their mics and videos correctly checked and the layout of the screen ready. So one by one, I would be calling. I would first request Sister Pranshi to read some portions from Bhagavad Gita, whatever she has prepared. Over to you.
Namaskar. On this White Lotus Day, I will read some shlokas from chapter 11 of the Bhagavad Gita. The Cosmic Form Divine. When the Supreme Lord descends in the world, he has 2 kinds of forms. One is the material form that can be seen with material eyes, and the other is his divine form that can only be seen with divine vision. Thus, human beings do see him during his descension upon the earth, but they see only his material form. His divine form is not visible to their material eyes. The same theory applies to his cosmic form. Sri Krishna asked Arjuna to see the cosmic form. But Arjuna could see nothing because he had material eyes. The physical eyes are insufficient to see that universal form, and the ordinary intellect is unequipped to comprehend it. Thus, Sri Krishna granted the divine vision to behold the universal form with all its majesty. The granting of spiritual vision is an act of grace by the Supreme Lord. By His grace, God adds His divine eyes to the soul's material eyes. He adds His divine mind to the soul's material mind. He adds His divine intellect to the soul's material intellect. Then, equipped with the divine senses, mind, and intellect of God, the soul can see His divine form. This chapter contains more action than previous chapters. Instead of revolving primarily around the dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, it describes a scene in which Krishna transforms into a more divine manifestation and shows Arjuna some of his power. What dialogue might not have communicated fully until now is escalated by the visual experience of Krishna's divine form, revealing the nature of the being to whom Arjuna is talking. Arjuna's response is a mixture of awe, love, and fear because he has moved from an intellectual to an experiential understanding of Krishna's teaching. However, even this form of Krishna doesn't fully encompass his unmanifest form. Although it allows Arjuna a more tangible grasp of Krishna's vastness, Krishna's unmanifest form is impossible to experience outside of actually achieving upon. Readers should keep in mind, however, that the transformation is seen and told from the perspective of the poet Sanjay. Several important gods are mentioned in the poem, and throughout this chapter, first Brahma appears in this chapter in conjunction with his lotus throne, often depicted as seated in a giant lotus flower. He is one of the three gods connected to the creation, sustainment, and destruction transformation of the universe. Brahma is the god of creation, Vishnu is the god of sustainment, and Shiva is the god of destruction and rebirth. In this chapter, Arjuna calls Krishna Lord Vishnu multiple times because Krishna is often interpreted as an incarnation of God Vishnu or vice versa. They are usually recognized as versions of the same deity. Aneka bahu udara vaktra netram pashyami tvam sarvato ananta rupam na antam na madhyam na punastavadim pashyami vishveshara vishwarupa Twamaksharam paramam veditvavyam Twamasya vishwasya param nidhanam Twamavyam shashvata dharma gupta sanatana astavam purusho matome Anadi madhya antam ananta viryam ananta bahum shashisurya netram Pashyami tvam dipta hutash vaktram swatajesa vishwam idam tapantam Twamadi devam purusha puranas Twamasya vishwasya param nidhanam Vetasi vedyam cha param cha dhama Tvaya tvatam vishwam anantarupa Vayur yamo agnir varuna shashanka Prajapati tvam pita mahascha Namo namaste stu sahasra kritva Punascha bhuyopi namo namaste. Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you, Sister Pranshi. So we will move on to our next speaker or reader. We would now go to the Light of Asia. And this is all about Lord Buddha. You would be knowing Light of Asia is all about from Buddha's birth till pre-birth till Nirvana and his teachings. So Brother Smruti Sagar would be reading few pages from the Light of Asia. Here we are not reading the exact verses from Sir Edwin Arnold's Light of Asia. We have taken up a script from Brother Rishikesh Sharan, who has explained the poetic Light of Asia to subtle stories and who has explained it probably for the youth and children. So since we are a young lodge of more of young members, we have chosen to read the pages from Brother Rishikesh Sharan's book, which is in a story format. So Brother Smruti Sagar may read one or two stories, looking at the time constraints, maybe two stories maximum. Over to you, Brother Smruti Sagar. So you can tell us the names of the chapters, names of the stories and read it, please.
Thank you. I will read two stories of the Light of Asia. The first story is Queen's Dream. That night, the wife of King Suddhadana, Queen Maya, while asleep beside her lord, dreamed a strange dream. Dreamed that a splendid star, six red of rosy pearl color, ch- changed into a six-tusked elephant, as white as the milk of Kamadhenu, shot through the void and shining entered into her womb from right side. When aired, the mother's breast was filled with immortal bliss. In the morning, a lovely light forwent over more than the half of the earth. The strong hills shook, the waves calmed down. All flowers that blow by the day came forth as it were high noon. The queen's joy passed down to the farthest hills. A tender whisper was heard, "Oh, you," it said, "the dead who will reborn again, and the living ones who will die one day should rise and hear. Have hope, Buddha is coming." At this much peace spread in numberless limbs, and the world's heart throbbed. A wind blew with unknown freshness over lands and seas. When it was dawn, the dream readers were told of the dream. They explained, "The dream is good. The crab is in conjunction with the sun. The queen shall bear a holy child of wondrous wisdom, profiting all human beings. He will liberate the man from ignorance or rule the world if he decides to rule." In this way was the holy Buddha born. The second story is Devadatta and Swan. Then something strange happened. One day in spring over the royal garden, a flock of wild swans was passing in the sky, voguing north to their nesting places in the Himalayas, calling in love notes along their snowy line. The bright birds were being piloted by the fond love of one of them, which was in the front. Devadatta, cousin of the prince, pointed his bow and sent an arrow which struck the wide wing of the foremost swan. The injured swan fell on the free blue road with the bitter arrow fixed on it. Bright scarlet blood drops staining the pure feather. Seeing this, Prince Siddhartha took the bird tenderly up and rested it on his lap, sitting with knees crossed as Mahakaranic Buddha sits, and with a soothing touch removed the wild bird's fright, composed its disturbed wings, and calmed its quick heart. He nursed it unto peace with light, kind palms as soft as our unrolled plantain leaves. While the left hand held the bird, the right hand drew the cruel steel forth from the wound and laid cool leaves and healing honey on the shore. As yet the body knew so little of pain that curiously he pressed the arrow's barb into his wrist and cried with pain to feel its sting and turned with tears to soothe the bird again. Then someone came and said, "My prince has shot the swan which fell among the roses here. He has bid me to pray to you to send it. Will you send it?" "No," said Siddhartha. "If the bird were dead, then it might be well to send it to the slayer, but the swan is live. My cousin has only killed the godlike speed which throbbed in his white wing." Then answered Devadatta, The wild thing living or dead in his hoof has died down. It was no man's in the clouds, but having followed it is mine. Give me my prize, fair cousin. Then our teacher laid the swan's neck beside his own smooth cheek and spoke gravely. Say not that the bird is mine. This bird is the first of many things which shall be mine by right of mercy and love's lordliness for now. I know that is within me that stares. I shall teach compassion to men and be an interpreter of speechless word, awaiting the coarse flood of woe, and not for the man alone. But if the prince still disputes, let him submit his matter to the wise, and we will wait for their decision. So was it done? In full divan of the king, his business was debated, and many thought this way in favor of Siddhartha, and many that were in favor of Devadatta, till Eros and unknown placed before them and said, if life is being discussed, the savior of the life owns more the living thing than he who sought to slay it. The slayer spoils and waste, whereas the cherisher sustains. Give the bird to Siddhartha. This judgment was found just by all, but when the king sent his guards to fetch the saint for honoring him, he was gone, and the guards saw a hooded snake glide forth. The gods often come thus. Thus our Mahakauranik Buddha began his wars of mercy. Yet he did not know more as yet of grief than that one verse which, when healed, went joyous to his flock. Thank you.
Very nice stories, very apt up for this occasion. How somebody comes, somebody teaches us, and then when he teaches about his paths, how do we follow him? So he taught us compassion when he was as a child bodily. That's so nice of you for choosing these beautiful two parts of the stories. So I will now move on to our next reader, Vansh. Brother Vansh is the youngest, I think, in the group now. So he would be reading the Voice of Silence. Voice of Silence has again, 3 parts. He would be introducing that. I hope Vansh would be reading out portions from all the 3 parts, right, Vansh? Please go ahead.
Namaskar. I will read portions from the Voice of Silence, which has 3 fragments. First, the Voice of Silence. Second, the 2 parts. Third, the 7 portals. The voice of the silence. Before the soul can see, the harmony within must be attained, and freshly eyes be rendered blind to all illusion. This is I declare, O disciple, that the soul is caught in the web of delusion. Said the great law, in order to become the knower of all self, thou hast first of self to be the knower. To reach the knowledge of that self, thou hast to give up to self to non-self, being to non-being. Thou canst not travel on the path before thou hast become that path itself. Let the soul lend its ear to every cry of pain, like as the lotus bears its heart to drink the morning sun. Let not the fierce sun dry one tear of pain before the self hast wiped it from the sufferer's eye. But let each burning human tear drop on the heart and there remain nor ever brush it off until the pain that caused it is removed. Desire nothing, chef, not the karma, nor at nature's changeless laws, but the struggle only with the personal, the transitory, the evanescent, and the perishable. Help nature and work on with her, and nature will regard thee as one of her creators and make obeisance. And she will open wide before the portals of her secret chambers, lay bare before the gaze the treasure hidden in the very depths of her pure virgin blossom. Unsullied by the hands of matter, she shows her treasure only to the eyes of spirit, the eyes which never closes. the eyes for which there is no wheel in all her kingdoms. Long and weary is the way before thee, O disciple, O single thought about the past that thou hast left behind will drag thee down, and thou wilt have to start climb anew. Kill in thyself all memory of past experiences. Look not behind, or thou art lost. Do not believe that lust can ever be killed out if gratified or satiated. For this is an abomination inspired by Mara. It has been feeding vice that it expands and waxes strong, like the worm that fattens on the blossom hurts. The pupil must regain the child state he has lost ere the first sound can fall upon his ears. Second, the two paths. Search for the path, but O Lanu, by of clear heart before thou startest of the journey. Before thou takest the first step, learn to discern the real from the false, the ever fleeting from the everlasting. Learn above all to separate head learning from soul wisdom, the eye from the heart doctrine. Mind is like a mirror. It gathers dust while it reflects. It needs the gentle breezes of soul wisdom to brush away the dust of our illusion. Shun praise, O devotee, praise led to self-delusion. The body is not self. The self is in itself, without a body, and either praise or blame affects it not. Self-gratulation, O disciple, is like unto a lofty tower, up which a haughty fool has climbed. Theoren, he sits in prideful solitude and unperceived by any but himself. So kindly acts, and thou shalt reap their fruition. Inaction in a deed of mercy becomes an action in a deadly sin. Shalt thou abstain from action. Not so shall gain the soul her freedom. To reach nirvana, one must reach self-knowledge, and self-knowledge is of loving deeds the child. Have patience, candidate, as one who fears no failure, courts no success. If thou wouldst reap sweet peace and rest, disciple, sow with the seeds of merit the field of future harvests, accept the foos of birth. Step out from the sunlight into shade to make more rooms for others. The selfish devotees lives to no purpose. The man who does not go through his appointed work in life has lived in vain. Follow the wheel of life, follow the wheel of duty to race and kin, to friend and foe, and close the mind to pleasure as to pain. Be humble if thou wouldst attain to wisdom. Be humbler still when wisdom thou hast mastered. Be like the ocean which receives all streams and rivers. The ocean's might can't remain unmoved. It feels them not. Restrained by the divine, the lower self, restrained by the eternal, the divine. Great is he who is the slayer of desire. Still greater he in whom the self-divine has slain the very knowledge of desire. Guard though the lower, lest its soul the higher. The way to final freedom is within the self. Third, the seven portals. The teacher can but point the way. The path is one for all. The means to reach the goal must vary with the pilgrims. The following is the dialogue between teacher and disciple compiler. Look on, words see, though before thin eye, or O aspirant to God look like wisdom. The cloak of darkness is upon the deep of matters. Within its fold I struggle, beneath my gaze it deepens, Lord, it is dispelled be beneath the weighing of the hand. A shadow moves, creeping like the stretching serpent coils. It grows, swells out, and disappears in the darkness. It is the shadow of the self outside the path, cast on the darkness of the sins. Yea, Lord, I see the path, its foot in mire, its summits lost in glorious light nirvanic. And now I see the ever narrowing portals on the hard and thorny way to Ginara. Though ceased well Lanu, these portals led the aspirants across the water on to the other shore. Each portal had a golden key that opened the gate, and these keys are Dana, the key of charity and love immortal; Sheila, the key of harmony in word and act; the key that counterbalances the cause and the effect and leaves no further room for karmic action; Shanti, patience, sweet, that not can ruffle; Virag, indifference to pleasure and to pain; illusion conquered, truth alone perceived; Virya, the dauntless energy that fights its way to the supernal truth out of the mire of lies terrestrial; Dhyan, whose golden gate once opened leads to Naljar towards the realm the sat eternals and its ceaseless contemplation; Prajna, the key to which makes a good god, creating him a bodhisattva, son of Dhyanis. Thou shalt attain the seventh step and cross the gate of final knowledge, but only to wed woo. If thou wouldst be Thagata, follow upon the predecessor's step, remain unselfish till the endless end. Thou art enlightened, choose the way. Hark, from the deep, unfathomable the vortex of that golden light in which the victor baths. All nature's wordless voice is in thousand tones, a reset to proclaim. Jo unto ye, O men of Mayalba, a pilgrim hath returned back from the other shore. A new Aryan is born. Peace to all beings. Thank you.
Thank you. Peace to all beings. So this is about the text which Madam HPB had suggested to read on the Lotus Day whenever we celebrate as Theosophists. Now, lastly, we would be recalling Madam HPB's life. In short, Sister Kritika, as she has always been, she has been a wonderful reader. I am sure she would have summarized HPB's life to present before us. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Sister Suvalina. So, hello and namaste to everybody. Talking about Madam Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, one of the most influential occult thinkers of the 19th century. Helena Petrovna Blavatsky left behind conflicting images of adventurers, author, mystic, guru, occultist, and charlatan. With the aid of Colonel Henry Olcott and William Q. Judge, she founded the Theosophical Society in New York in 1875. Born at Ekaterinoslav, Russia on July 31, 1831, Madame Blavatsky was the daughter of Colonel Peter Han, a member of a Mecklenburg family settled in Russia. In order to gain converts to Theosophy, she felt obliged to appear to perform miracles. This she did with a large measure of success, but her methods were on several occasions detected as fraudulent. Nevertheless, her commanding personality secured for her a large following. An enigmatic personality, Blavatsky was raised in an atmosphere saturated with superstition and fantasy. She loved to surround herself with mystery as a child and claimed to her playmates that in the subterranean corridors of their old house at Saratoga, where she used to wander about, she was never alone, but had companions and playmates whom she called her hunchbacks. Blavatsky was often discovered in a dark tower underneath the roof, where she put pigeons into a mesmeric sleep by stroking them. She was unruly, and as she grew older, she often shocked her relatives by her masculine behavior. Once, riding astride a Cossack horse, she fell from the saddle and her foot became entangled in the stirrup. She claimed that she ought to have been killed outright were it not for the strange sustaining power she distinctly felt around her, which seemed to hold her up in defiance of gravitation. According to the records of her sister, Blavatsky showed frequent evidence of somnambulism as a child, speaking aloud and often walking in her sleep. She saw eyes glaring at her from inanimate objects or from phantasmal forms from which she would run away screaming and frighten the entire household. In later years, she claimed to have seen a phantom protector whose imposing appearance had dominated her imagination. Blavatsky's powers of make-believe were remarkable. She possessed great natural music talents, had a fearful temper, a passionate curiosity for the unknown and weird, and an intense craving for independence and action. She led a wild life. At the age of 17, she was married to General Blavatsky, an old man from whom she escaped 3 months later. She then fled abroad and led a wild, wandering life for 10 years all over the world in search of mysteries. When she returned to Russia, she possessed well-developed mediumistic gifts. Raps, whisperings, and other mysterious sounds were heard all over the house. Objects moved about in obedience to her will. Their weight decreased and increased as she wished, and winds swept through the apartment, extinguishing lamps and candles. She gave exhibitions of clairvoyance, discovered a murderer for the police, and narrowly escaped being charged as an accomplice. In 1860, Blavatsky became severely ill. A wound below the heart, which she received from a sword cut in magical practice in the East, opened again, causing her intense agony, convulsions, and trance. After she recovered, her spontaneous physical phenomena disappeared, and she claimed that they only occurred after that time in obedience to her will. Blavatsky again went abroad and disguised as a man. She fought under Garibaldi and was left for dead in the Battle of Mentana. She fought back to life, had a miraculous escape at sea on a Greek vessel that was blown up, and in 1871 in Cairo, she founded the Society Spirit. It was a dubious venture that soon expired amid cries of fraud and embezzlement, reflecting considerably on the reputation of the founder. Her closer ties with spiritualism dated from her arrival in New York in July 1873. Blavatsky first worked as a dressmaker to obtain a living, and after her acquaintance with Colonel Henry Steele Olcott at Chittenden, Vermont, in the house of Eddy Brothers, she took up journalism, writing mostly on spiritualism for magazines and translating Olcott's articles into Russian. For over 15 years have I fought my battle for the blessed truth, she wrote in The Spiritual Scientist, published in Boston. For the sake of spiritualism, I have left my house, an easy life amongst a civilized society, and have become a wanderer upon the face of this earth. Her second marital venture, which occurred during this period, ended in failure and escape. The starting point of her real career was the founding of the Theosophical Society in 1875. It professed to expound the esoteric tradition of Buddhism and aimed at forming a universal brotherhood of man, studying and making known the ancient religions, philosophies, and sciences, investigating the laws of nature, and developing the divine powers latent in man. It was claimed to be directed by secret Mahatmas or masters of wisdom. Olcott, who was elected president, was a tireless organizer and propagandist. His relationship to Blavatsky was that of pupil to teacher. He did the practical work and Madam the literary work. Their joint efforts soon put the society on a prosperous footing, and at the end of 1878, a little party of four left under their leadership for Bombay. Soon after, the Theosophical movement gained added impetus from the publicity launched by A.P. Sinnett, editor of The Pioneer, who had embraced Buddhism in Ceylon. The publicity had its disadvantages as well. The attention of the Society for Physical Research was aroused by reports of the theosophic marvels, and Richard Hodgson was sent to Adyar, India, where the central headquarters of the Theosophical movement was established, to investigate. The investigation had a disastrous effect for Blavatsky and dealt a nearly fatal blow to theosophy. Hodgson reported that he found nothing but palpable fraud and extreme credulity on the part of the believers. The Coulombs, a couple who had joined Blavatsky in Bombay in 1880 and were her acquaintances from the time of the Cairo adventure, confessed to having manufactured, in conspiracy with Blavatsky, a large number of theosophical miracles. They revealed the secret of the sliding panels of the shrine in the occult room through which, from Blavatsky's bedroom, the astral Mahatma letters were deposited. Disclosed impersonation of the Mahatmas by a dummy head and shoulders. Declared that the Mahatma letters were written by Blavatsky in a disguised hand and that they were projected through cracks in the ceiling by means of spring contrivances. And they produced the correspondence between them and Blavatsky in proof of their self-confessed complicity. Hodgson's investigations, which lasted for 3 months, entirely demolished the first private and confidential report of the SPR issued in December 1884, which was theoretically favored to Blavatsky's claims. Hodgson's conclusions were published in the Proceedings of the SPR. The publication of the report, which followed the printing of the Coulomb letters in the Madras Christian magazine, created an immense sensation. In response, Olcott, whose honesty was not impugned by the report, banished Blavatsky from Adyar. The proofs of her guilt were overwhelming, for the defense was built up with great difficulties. With the Theosophical Society thus discredited, recovery looked hopeless. Nevertheless, Annie Besant, who would become Blavatsky's successor, and Sinnett valiantly took on the task. Hodgson answered and insisted on his conclusions. In the literature that subsequently grew up on the subject, V.S. Solovyov claimed in A Modern Priestess of is 1895 that Blavatsky acknowledged her fraudulent practices to the author. Blavatsky's posthumous memoirs was a most curious artifact of the time that was said to have been dictated by Blavatsky's spirit. The text, which furnished strong internal proofs of its apocryphal character, was obtained in independent typewriting on a Yost machine under the supervision of the spirit of its inventor, Mr. G.W.N. Yost. Blavatsky nevertheless succeeded in living down every attack during her lifetime, continued her work, gained many new adherents to theosophy, and published a work, The Secret Doctrine, which was claimed to have been written in a supernormal condition. Whatever conclusions are reached about her complex character, it must be admitted that she was an extraordinarily gifted individual, and it does not seem probable that she indeed possessed psychic powers, which, however, fell far short of the miraculous feats she constantly aimed at. Even Solovyov admits some remarkable expressions and experiences, and though he furnished natural explanations for many of them, the assumption that withstands challenge is that she had, as plainly pointed out by Alcott himself, unusual hypnotic powers. Her famous feats of duplicating letters and other small objects are plainly ascribable to this source when common fraud does not cover the ground. She never troubled about test conditions. Most of her phenomena were produced under circumstances wide open to suspicion and strongly savoring of a conjuring performance. These included the finding of an extra cup and saucer at a picnic at Shimla in 1880 in the Senate Garden under the ground at a designated spot, the clairvoyant discovery of the lost brooch of Mrs. Hume in a flower bed, the astral dispatch of marked cigarettes to places she indicated, and the Mahatma scripts imposed over the text of private letters which the post had just delivered. There is no end of these and similar miracles, and the testimony of the truth is sometimes so surprising that one can conclude that imposture occasionally blended with genuine psychic performance. The general character of Blavatsky's phenomena is of a different order from those of the spiritualist medium. Her early physical phenomena subsided at a later age, although the power to cause raps remained. Once in New York, Alcott claimed that he witnessed the materialization of a Mahatma from a mist rising from her shoulders. As a rule, the Mahatmas were not supposed to depend upon Blavatsky's organism for appearance and controlled her body, but seldom. Essays unveiled and the secret doctrine were claimed to have been produced under such control. Whereas there is a limit to the phenomena of every spiritualistic medium. Blavatsky apparently knew none. From the materialization of grapes for the thirsty Colonel Alcott in New York to the duplication of precious stones in India or the creation of toys for children out of nothingness, she undertook almost any magical task and successfully performed it to everyone's amazement. The Hodgson report left a deep shadow over Blavatsky's final years. Besant's conversion to theosophy resulted after she had requested by W.T. Stead to review the secret doctrine in 1889. Blavatsky suggested that she read the Hodgson report before forming any firm conclusions. But Besant was not adversely affected and requested to be Blavatsky's pupil. Thereafter, Besant provided a secure refuge for the aging theosophist at her own home in London. In her last years, Blavatsky became the center of a memorable group of talented individuals. She died peacefully. May 5, 1891. Thank you.
Very
It
nice.
was really a very nice summary, and I know in our lodge we have not yet touched upon books like Secret Doctrine or Isis Unveiled. I have not yet introduced these books to you all, like all our young members I'm talking about. But when you read it in your later stage of your studies and all, so we have not kept it in our syllabus for the time being. But whoever would read the Secret Doctrine, the Isis Unveiled, and whenever you get through the Mahatma letters, all those examples you are quoting today, Kritika, from wherever you have taken this summary from, you would actually get the right feel of it, and you would get to know the history and the science of it, I would say. Okay. So moving on, now that we have touched upon all the texts Madam Blavatsky had advised us, and we really wanted to read about her life's summary, to know her closely, to at least know her, how she was, how she came up with the ideas and established this beautiful society, and how we are currently referring to so many literature of hers and other senior theosophists of her time and afterwards as well. So now let us move on to, I think, few minutes of devotional song and music back to back. I would request Kritika to display the video shared by Urvashi. Urvashi is a young member. She couldn't attend it because she's writing a 12th board and she couldn't manage to be here. So she has sent us her devotional video.
श्री रामचंद्र कृपालु भज मन हरण भव भय दारुणम नव कंज लोचन कंज मुख कर कंज पद कंजारुणम कंदर्प अगणित अमित छवि नव नील नीरज सुंदरम पट पीत मानहु तड़ित रुचि सुचि नौमि जनक सुतावरम भजु दीन बंधु दिनेश दानव दैत्य वंश निकंदनम रघुनंद आनंद कंद कौशल चंद दशरथ नंदनम सिर मुकुट कुंडल तिलक चारु उदारु अंग विभूषणम अजानु भुज शर चाप दर संग्राम जित खर दूषणम इति वदित तुलसी दास शंकर शेष मुनि मनरंजनम मम हृदय कुंज निवास कुरु कामादि खल दल गंजनम मनु चाहि राजयु मिलिहि सोबरु सहज सुंदर सावरो करुणा निधान सुजान सीलु सनेहु जानत रावरो एहि भांति गौरी असिस सुनी सिया सहित हिय हर्षि अली तुलसी भवानी पूजी पुनि पुनि मुदित मन मंदिर चली। धन्यवाद।
Kindly unmute.
Soumya is around. I could see her. Yeah, would you like to say something, Adya?
Actually, I have shared my video. You can play it.
Okay, fine. Kritika, if you could just try and play it for her.
तुम माया शोदा अच्युतं केशवं कृष्णदामोदरं रामनारायणं जानकीवल्लभं बोल के तारे भगवान नाचते नहीं बोल के तारे भगवान नाचते नहीं तुम गोपियों की तरह तुम न जाते नहीं गोपियों की तरह तुम न जाते नहीं अच्युतं केशवं कृष्णदामोदरं रामनारायणं जानकीवल्लभं अच्युतं केशवं.
Very nice.
Thank you, Urvashi and Soumya, our little Adya. And now we will move on to the last piece of the musical segment. We have got this video dedicated for this year's White Lotus Day by Brother Vishwajit Mahapatra, again one of our senior member from the lodge. So Pranshi, if you could play his video.